Can you tell us your name and what you do here at Pleasant Valley High School?
My name is Cindy Bailey, and I'm an English teacher here at Pleasant Valley, 10th grade and seniors.
How long have you been in the education program? For all those years here at PV?
I've been teaching 32 years, and most of the years haven't been here at PV. I've been at PV 7 years, and I did about 25 years at Bidwell, and before that I spent 3 years at a junior high in Fremont, California.
What drew you into teaching English? Were there any other subjects that you taught previously?
Oh, what drew me into teaching English? Well, I love the idea of learning to communicate effectively, whether that's written word or spoken word, and I think English, you can do all those things, plus I love books and reading, so I think that ability to communicate your ideas was probably first and foremost what drew me in. So,
how did you do in school? Did you play any sports during the time?
I did okay during school. I like to have some fun too, so there were a couple classes I struggled with, but I liked school generally in high school, so I did well, except for a couple classes. I did sports. I played on the tennis team, and I didn't swim on the team, but I always was a swimmer, so I swam recreationally, like in the summer, and lifeguarded and that kind of stuff.
What's your thoughts on the involvement of technology in the education system? Do you think it's helpful?
Well, I love technology. So I went back to school and got my master's about, I don't know, 20 years ago probably, and so I was really involved in technology when it was first emerging into classrooms and what have you. When a lot of other people weren't really using technology, I really was embracing it. I think it can sometimes be distracting. It depends on the use. I think students can benefit from it, but I think students have to learn to not use it as a crutch. We all use it as a crutch, so sometimes I think we have to be really careful about that. But I think it's allowed us to create higher level thinking for students. We can move along and do things that used to take us a long time. We can get through things quicker, so it's a benefit in that way.
All right. What is your protocol for dealing with a difficult student?
A difficult student, well, I don't have any difficult students. They're all just lovely, so I don't really have to, no. I do have lovely students though, you know, I have to say, I feel really fortunate. So what do I do with a difficult student? Well, I try to remain calm. That's first and foremost, because if a student's agitated or mad or upset, it's not gonna do them any good for me to get agitated or upset. So I try to just diffuse a situation, give them the space that they need, maybe come back and talk about it the next day, try to be understanding. I'm not sure I'm super sympathetic. Maybe I should be more sympathetic. But I try to understand that all students have different needs, and sometimes students are struggling over something I don't think they should be struggling over, or they have things happen at home that might influence the way they're behaving. I know usually it's not about me. I mean, I try not to take it personally, even though they might lash out at me. I try not to put students on the spot. I think sometimes students get mad when a teacher calls them out, and either with a question or just their behavior. So I try not to do that too much. I don't know how well I do at that, but I try.
What would you call your teaching style? Is it aggressive, laid back, interactive, etc.?
Teaching style. Well, I would say that I'm a well-organized teacher, and I think I have high expectations for my students. I don't think I cut my students a lot of slack. I think that I want my students to be here and prepared because I'm here and prepared. And I realize it's my job, but my job is to have my students gain information and become better citizens. So I also try to role model. So if I'm well prepared and I'm prompt and ready to go, then that's how I expect my students to be. But I'm not a laid-back teacher, and probably most of my students would agree.
It's a Friday afternoon, and you just got home from school. What are you doing?
I'm setting down a big bag full of papers to grade that I'll have to tackle at some point over the weekend. I'm probably putting my feet up somewhere, either at home or out with some friends, but more often than not, I'm probably at home, putting my feet up, relaxing and looking at the weekend, figuring out what I still need to do. And I usually take Friday nights to just do my own thing and catch a movie or hang out with some friends or something and not do any schoolwork, and I don't tackle that till Saturday. So usually I might even be taking a nap if I'm really tired and it's been a busy week. So I try not to make too many plans for Fridays.
Perfect. Who's a role model in your life that you greatly admire?
Probably my mom. She passed away about 13 or 14 years ago, but she was amazing, and she's probably why I teach. She was a teacher. She was just warm and loving and caring, but held high expectations for my family. But she was an elementary teacher, so she didn't really have the high school thing, but there was still a connection there. So probably a lot of what I do and the way that I behave is the things that she role modeled. I used to go into her classroom and hang out and watch her, and so she's probably the biggest role model that I had in my life.
As an English teacher, what book do you recommend all students read?
Well, there's so many. I can't just choose one. I only get one. Let's see. Well, my favorite is probably To Kill a Mockingbird. A lot of teachers would probably say that because there's so many great lessons, morals, values, things to talk about. It's such a beloved book by so many people. So I love To Kill a Mockingbird. I've been teaching Into the Wild the last couple of years, and I think for seniors that's a really important book as they get ready to chart their own course. I think we can learn a lot of lessons from Chris McCandless's journey in Into the Wild. I just want students reading, whether those are articles or magazines or books, or wherever students are going to get their information. I just want to see them reading, even if it's not a particular book. Those are probably two really good ones.
Awesome. What are some of your hobbies?
Well, when I'm not grading papers, I love to quilt. I'm not very good at it, but I like it because it's so different than what I normally do. It's kind of my creative outlet. I like fabric. My mom was a master quilter. So my mom taught me to quilt before she died. In fact, the day that she died, I was sitting at her sewing machine. So maybe that's why I feel like that need to kind of carry that on. I only make quilts for people that know me because they're not great, but they're made with love. So I quilt. I've kind of been working out a little bit more, doing some workouts that I haven't really done before, and I love to play tennis, but my future goal is to pick up paddle tennis. That's what I really want to do, and there's a group of people that play paddle tennis, but they play in the mornings because they're all retired. So I have to wait till I'm retired to do that, but that's something else. I travel a little bit, probably kind of locally, California, get to the beach when I can. So.
How do you personally cope with mean people?
How do I personally cope with mean people? I would say my mantra to my own children and to my students is to kill them with kindness. I don't really have time to be mean, and I don't really understand people being mean and manipulative. So I just think if you can bring kindness to them and take the high road, maybe. I'm the first one to say that I'm sorry if I made a mistake, and sometimes I'll say I'm sorry even if maybe I'm not sorry, or the person I need to. I don't think I'm fake, but if I need to diffuse a situation because somebody's being mean and they're going to accuse me of something, I'm going to just acknowledge their accusation and try to move from there. But I'm not a angry person. I don't really raise my voice much in my classroom or to my own kids. So I just try to be kind to people. That's why I have my little be kind in my classroom.
I know previously you mentioned a little bit about traveling. Where have you traveled to?
Well, I haven't traveled a lot, but I've traveled out of the country just to Mexico, the Caribbean, and the Bahamas. But I have a trip planned. I'm heading to Costa Rica in about 10 weeks. It's the first time. I haven't had a passport because you didn't need a passport to go to Mexico and the Caribbean, but now I have a passport. So I'll be going to Costa Rica. So that's exciting. But I would say most of my travel has been in the U.S. I've spent a lot of time in San Luis Obispo, pretty near and dear to my heart. by the beach. My kids are in school there. I went to school there, so that's been a lot of my travel. I think last year at a hotel where I normally stay, the gal asked me if I knew how many days I had stayed there in the past like 3 years, and it was something like 45 nights or something like that. So if I have free time, that's probably where you're going to find me. But San Diego, I've been to Colorado, I've been to New York, I've been to Arizona and Seattle. So mainly U.S. travel and California in particular.
What's a difficulty in your life that you're really proud of overcoming?
So a difficulty, well, maybe two things. So for sure when my mom died, that was really, really challenging for me. We were very close, but I have a sister and we're really close too, and probably become even closer after my mom died. So it's kind of a silver lining maybe, but kind of just living life without a parent was a challenge for me. I also kind of found myself unhealthy a couple years ago, and my dad's health declined, and I watched his health decline, and it scared me because I saw some things that were happening to him potentially happening to me. So I've spent the last 2 years trying to eat a little bit better, maybe get a little more exercise and take care of myself so that maybe I don't end up in the same predicament that my dad's in. So I'm proud of that. It's a little hard at an older age to exercise. It's not easy. I'm trying to jump up on a little box, but I'm not there yet, but that's probably something else too.
Do you have a favorite movie quote? Can you recite it for us?
Well, I'm not very good at movie quotes because I watch movies, but I can never remember things. I don't watch a lot of movies, but I do own Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So probably to remind me how not to behave in the classroom, I like the Bueller, anyone. I think that's funny, and it helps me remember that I really don't want to bore my students. I know I do, but I really don't want to. So that's kind of a funny movie. There's a few others, but that's probably the one that comes to mind most quickly.
All right, Ms. Bailey, to finish this off, we have 5 questions just to wrap things up.
Okay.
What is your favorite word?
My favorite word, there's a lot of words I like, but I would say I love, it's 2 words, but cochlear implant. So my daughter has the gift of sound because of a cochlear implant, and without that, her life would be different. I mean, very fulfilled, I'm sure, but it's really opened up a world for her. So I am grateful for that word, or words.
What is your least favorite word?
The F word. Any profanity, really. I don't swear. I don't like my students to swear. I don't like my family members to swear. I just think there's so many other ways to say what you really want to say. I think it just feels sort of vulgar to me and not very articulate, so I'm bothered by that. So that's definitely the word that I hate the most.
What sound or noise do you love?
The last bell on June 6th. I mean, I love my students, but I love my summers too. So I don't know, the bell whenever the bell rings on the last day of school.
Other than teaching, what profession would you most like to do?
When I retire, I want to go do a totally mindless job. What I really would like to do is be the scanner at the grocery store that scans the food that comes across, because we use the wands, to scan the books. And we used to get the wand ourselves, and I love that. I'd be like, oh, I'm going to scan your book. So a job where I could go and work and then leave. I mean, I don't really want to work when I retire, but I would do maybe a little something, so I would do that, or be a barista at Starbucks or something. But if I was changing careers, I think I would really like to be a speech pathologist. I just love the way the voice works and learning that and how we learn to talk. So I think speech pathology might have been a good calling for me.
And to end this out, what profession would you never want to do?
I would never want to do a job where I had to battle the elements. I'm not a big, I don't really like the cold weather. I don't like being outside when it's cold. I wish I was more like a hiker and outdoorsman. I'm not really, I don't really like that very much. So I was thinking like ice fisherman, that would be really bad, or even a postman. I think if I was delivering mail, because, you know, their motto is like, through rain or sleet or snow or hail, it'll always be there, that would be really hard for me. I'm sure there's some other jobs, anything that maybe would put my life in danger, that would be, I admire greatly police officers and firemen and even doctors and, you know, nurses and what have you. So, but anything where I had to contend with cold weather would not work.
I believe that wraps it up. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Sure.